Hi, I'm Rebecca Rosen, a spiritual medium and best-selling author. Welcome to my podcast, Small, Medium, at Large. Although small in stature, I've been taking on the big and unusual job of talking to the dead for over 20 years. I serve as a messenger for spirit, helping people to connect to their departed loved ones and guides, while also encouraging them to strengthen their own intuition.
Hello. I am so excited to talk about life lessons and assignments in this podcast episode. And here's why. This was the original inspiration behind writing my book, What's Your Heaven? Mainly because I was doing reading after reading, and we started diving into exploring people's soul contracts or life plan that they signed up for before coming into this lifetime. And in that, we would go into whatever specific life lessons that individual was working on. And so it became this really interesting concept for me. So for about 3 or 4 years, I was doing these readings, exploring all of the common life lessons and assignments that seemed to come up for people. And what I noticed was there's about 30 of them. Common universal assignments that we come in to work through, to explore, hands-on, and then to fully integrate or embody so that we can master these lessons and grow our soul and evolve, the whole point of being here in this human experience. And so having said all that, I thought it would be really good to do a deep dive into the top 10 categories of these life assignments. What I did is on my website, I created a free assessment or quiz that you can take, and it will help you narrow down what your top life lessons are. Some of you don't need that. Some of you are self-aware enough to recognize what your assignments are. And you can usually tell by the patterns that keep showing up in your life or the things that keep triggering you that are unhealed, that require your attention. But if you are struggling or you just need further confirmation that what you believe to be true is, use the book. What's Your Heaven walks you through a process to help you get down to whatever the most important life lessons are, or use the online quiz. That's why it's there. But in that quiz, you will get a breakdown of those top 30 if you're curious. And so in this episode, we are going to go through those 30. And again, they're broken into 10 groups because a lot of them kind of fall under the same category. So I'm going to break that down for you today, and I'm really eager to jump in. Before I do, I want to share an email I got when I felt I wanted to create this podcast synchronistically. Spirit had a client of mine reach out and confirm exactly the need out there for further clarification. So I want to share this email from a client because I think it will resonate with many of you listening. So in this email, she says, "Hi, Rebecca, I know you get many emails, and I wanted to ask you a question that's on my mind, and it might be on other people's minds as well. It's pertaining to your recent posts regarding life lessons and the quiz you sent to help people discover which lessons are most pertinent to them. My question is, do we have the right to say to our guides in the universe that we've genuinely had enough of that lesson?" Sound familiar? "And that we'd like to experience something completely different in this lifetime." So then she goes on to say, "I completed the quiz you sent, and the most prominent lesson that came up for me was grief and perseverance. I had to almost laugh when I saw the results of the quiz because I can't imagine a more perfect summation of my adult life to this point." So then she goes on to say she's 46 and she's dealt with so much grief due to the loss of an older brother, to her fur baby that was like her child, to a divorce. And so she's just really sorting through grief. But on top of that, she works as a nurse on a neonatal unit for babies with congenital heart disease. So she said she sees families go through heartbreaking loss more than she cares to think about. Not a coincidence. She then goes on to say, you gave me a wonderful healing back in 2006. And then she was talking about she was dealing with the loss of her best friend due to suicide. And that was huge for her and still processing some of that tragedy and grief that she was feeling. And then she follows up by saying, at this point in my life, I have no doubt about my ability to persevere. I have no doubt about my ability to create something beautiful out of tragedy. I have no doubt that I have the strength to get through however many years I have left on earth. But my question is, what if I want to experience something different than the lesson I seem to have been working on so far? What if I want to have joy and new love and a more deeply fulfilling second half of my life? Is it possible to move on to a different lesson and perhaps a less painful one? I know that we sign up for what we experience in life. Do we have the right to say enough is enough and ask our guides in the universe to help us change course halfway through? And so we'll leave it at that. And, I have so many thoughts that came in as I was just reading that to you. But before we break down, the categories and the lessons, I want to address this because I think a lot of you listening can relate to this. So first of all, I commend her for not being a victim, for being a student in this Earth School and being curious and doing her work, stepping back and wanting to learn and grow and whatever that looks like. So that's the first thing. Next, what I want to say is the whole point of my book, What's Your Heaven, is life is not meant to be a struggle. It's not meant to be hard and challenging and full of doom and gloom. That's the old way, the 3D way. You guys, we are moving into the new earth, 5D. You have a choice. You can continue on in the pain and struggle and suffering of 3D, or you can live your heaven now. Bring the energies of heaven, 5D, into your earthly incarnation and experience and live with grace, ease, flow, and joy. So how do you do that? Well, you lean into whatever the lessons are. Rather than bypass, avoid, numb out, you're going to face it head on with courage and a willingness to understand why it's there in the first place, why you chose that on a soul level. What is this here to teach me? Not why is this happening? When you say, why is this happening? You become a victim. Rather, if you say, how can I find balance in this? Meaning balance your karma that you are here to heal. How can I learn and grow from this? What is this here to teach me? Ask those empowering questions. And then you'll start peeling back the layers on this and understand the challenge, the struggle, the lesson is a gift. It's there by divine design by you. And so when you do that, you're going to start moving from that pain and struggle and suffering and all the lower frequencies of shame and guilt and regret and doubt, insecurity and fear and anxiety. You're going to move up that emotional scale to neutrality, to acceptance, to peace, to ease, grace, joy, contentment, laughter, lightness, love, whatever you want to call it. You follow me? So that is the whole point. So the answer is simply yes. You absolutely can transcend these lessons. But just remember, these lessons aren't linear. So what happens is, just like grief isn't linear, you might do your work and it takes you 5 years, and then you're doing great for 2 years, and then again, it pops up and you feel like it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. All of a sudden, you're feeling like, oh my God, my grief came up again. And out of nowhere, it just means it's like the onion and peeling back layers. Spirit has showed me, things come up, they surface, and it's multi-layered, it's multi-dimensional. And so when you're in a frequency where you're able to address it, you're ready for that. Think of it like you've graduated to a new level. So you're ready for a deeper layer. And at some point, the layers may end or they just get less intense or messy. You're pulling out more and more each time you're leaning into it and learning and growing and transcending it to the point where you dissolve it, where it no longer is a lesson for you. And that may or may not happen in this lifetime. But the bottom line is most of us have more than one lesson. So what I have heard is we usually have anywhere from 2 to 5 really big soul lessons that we are here to work through. And some of us do it one by one by one, and many of us do them simultaneously. So you might be working on 2 of your really big ones, and let's say one of them is issues. So and then another could be surrender. So it's control issues. And then these patterns show up to test you, or you're testing yourself to do the work around it. So that answers that. And I think now I'll leave it at that, and we're going to dive into the top life lessons explained. So I want to go back and just make this really clear. As souls, we each choose to come into this life with a few key lessons, and our aim is to learn and sometimes master them. But the outcome isn't the important piece. It's your intention to do and be better with each moment. And, Spirit is only keeping score of your intention, not the outcome. So very important. And it's if you don't master them, as long as you continue to show up to your life and do the work. And our goal is to continue to evolve and grow in our soul and ascend higher. And connect to that divine light within us, around us, our higher selves, to our team in spirit, to source energy. While there are many life lessons, what I'm about to go through are the lessons that come up the most frequently in my mediumship work. And I've grouped common themes together based on how they present themselves in our day-to-day lives. For the most part, each person comes into this life, as I said, with 2 to 5 life lessons to tackle. And sometimes we can easily identify what those lessons are. They're like in our face, obvious, based on how we may have been tested in our lifetime. Others might be harder to pinpoint, and that's why I have these tools available for you. So I'm going to go through the descriptions and examples that will help you learn more about life lessons and those that you may be working on in this lifetime. And we see these lessons show up in our relationships as patterns that recur over and over again, or detours that have a big impact on our outside circumstances and internally as well, in the ways that we react to situations or think about ourselves and others and respond to the world around us. So keep in mind that our intention is what matters most, our effort. As I already said this, I really want to emphasize that. We are perfectly imperfect, and that is what is expected. So don't put pressure on yourself, be hard on yourself. Stay in a place of loving kindness and compassion for self as you work through this. So the focus of our time in Earth School ought to be quality over quantity. That is, to approach our lessons from a place of love and compassion, and with the understanding that our lives are happening for us, not to us. There's a very big difference. So let's start with group 1. And this group I'm calling Spirited. So under Spirited, in this group, we focus on learning lessons around faith, trust, self-referencing, and spirituality. And if you fall into this group, you may find yourself continually challenged by alternative possibilities and suspending your doubt long enough to open up to believing in the unseen order of things, of that which has no tangible proof. So it's really about getting out of your head and leaning into your faith and trust. Particularly if you identify as more left brain, the lessons of faith and trust may resonate with what you feel you are being most tested on in your lifetime. You may find yourself frequently defaulting to places of fear, judgment, and ego when difficult times arise. It's oftentimes a defense mechanism that we use when we're scared. It's the frightened parts of our personality, and then the ego takes over and reacts, causing you to feel separate and alone. Or you may tend to second guess yourself, not trusting your own instincts and intuition, and looking outside of yourself for the answers and looking to others for authority or for the wisdom when really you have it within you. So if any of these are one of your lessons in this incarnation, you may want to get more comfortable with surrendering, accepting the things that cannot always be explained, and believing in yourself and the world around you. Staying in that frequency of trust and ultimately living from a place of love versus fear. So the key here, I would say with a lot of this, is to suspend doubt and disbelief long enough to make room for and allow yourself to open and receive the miracles, the signs that Spirit is sending, the synchronicities, and allow them to unfold naturally, which as a result will help to build your faith and trust with yourself as well as with Divine Spirit. So now we're going to move on to group 2. This is called Let It Be. The Let It Be group is focused on learning lessons around acceptance, patience, discernment, neutrality, and humility. If you fall into this group, you may find yourself tested in ways that challenge your comfort zone, your beliefs around the right timing of things, and you may also struggle with all the shoulds, as in, this is what my life should look like. This is what I should have or shouldn't have, and on and on. You know how we all should ourselves at times. The Let It Be lessons may force you to accept what is instead of controlling what you think it should be. And with that comes a lot of trust. So additionally, you may find yourself put in positions that challenge you to take a step back and objectively observe the bigger picture, while also taking a closer look not only at yourself, but at others and the larger world around you. So when we do this, we get to a place of neutrality. We step out of our ego, out of our mind, thoughts, opinions, and judgments to get to a neutral space. That may be challenging for you. And if it is, that's a clue that that is a lesson you need to work with. And finally, I would just say it's very humbling when you recognize that you're only in control of so much, right? You're only in control of your own choices. That's why this is such an important lesson group. So it's really allowing yourself to just let everything be, letting go of trying to force or control or figure out everything. It's really just, it is what it is, and trusting that it's there for a reason. There's something important for you to learn and or work with in that experience. Doing your part, then letting it be. Group 3, Let Love In. The Let Love In group is focused on learning lessons related to compassion, kindness, self-love and self-worth, unconditional love, and gentleness. So these lessons have been grouped together as they emphasize lessons based in love in all its many forms. So if any of you resonate with this, anything I just said resonates, you may find yourself in relationships and situations that have asked you to show love to others, but most importantly to yourself, even when it may not be the easiest response for you. So it's really about getting into your heart, and not just, in theory, but acting from, showing up from the deepest places of your heart, which is who you really are, which is all love. In addition to extending love, the Let Love In lessons are equally about learning how to receive love back from others and extending loving kindness toward yourself, which I have found with working with clients that seems to be the hardest one. We tend to be hardest on ourselves. So you may be tested in your relationships or in situations that have caused you to question your desirability and worthiness around being loved and accepted for who you are, not for what you do, not for what you have, or not for what you can give to others, but for just being you. So learning how to approach your relationships from a place of love, choosing compassion and kindness over anything else, is how we master these lessons. Group 4 is Open Up. So the Open Up group is focused on learning lessons related to courage, open-heartedness, forgiveness, and vulnerability. And these lessons ask you to align with your higher self's perspective, viewing both yourself and others from a soul level rather than from a mind level, which tends to project judgment, blame, and creates all sorts of false stories onto a person, onto a situation. But our job here is to view it from our soul level and as inherently good at the core of your being, despite yours or others' flaws, mistakes, and poor choices at times. So it's remembering at the end of the day that most souls, I'm not going to say all, but most souls have a seed of good. And sometimes it gets clouded with our ego. And that puts us into fear, and we start making choices from the frequency of those lower vibrations. And when we do that, we tend to create hurtful, painful situations, whether it's for ourselves or others. And so the forgiveness is about not necessarily forgiving what happened or who, but the core of those involved or the core of you. Finding the pure intention, which ultimately is good. So these lessons challenge us to be brave, remembering that there's strength in vulnerability. And it's really, it's an old earth where it was like, toughen up, man up, as the saying would go. Don't show your feelings, don't cry. That's old. We want to be in touch with our feelings. We want to be heart-centered and emotionally available. This is honestly one of the biggest things I hear spirits come through with regret, saying they wish they would have been more forthcoming, emotionally available and vulnerable. And they wish they would have communicated and appreciated and validated their living loved ones from a place of their heart, their truth. And so the other piece of this, it's really important that if you're working through this, that you have a willingness to forgive when necessary. So often we want to hold others in blame or shame them because, we're afraid of whatever it is. We're afraid of, what's going to come up within us if we let go of that and that judgment. So it's so important to see everyone as already forgiven in a sense, because at the end of the day, we're all connected and we all go through this human experience together as mirrors for each other to help each other learn and grow, learn these lessons. So forgiveness is a really big one. And the tests that bring these lessons nudge you to lean into discomfort and to show up as your highest self, to break down the barriers and walls around your heart, and to lead with love. So group 5 is Let Go. The Let Go group is focused on learning lessons around peace, surrender, and stillness. These lessons may resonate with you if you often find yourself constantly moving, searching, or trying to control rather than feel the discomfort of what is. Sound familiar? Yeah, so it's human nature sometimes to just keep yourself busy, to avoid sitting and feeling. So learning these lessons will require you to get comfortable with silence and to make space for your truth to rise to the surface rather than numbing it or filling the void with some drug of choice to bypass feeling. So just being is sometimes a big one and really challenging for people when they're wired to be a doer. So it will require you to fully surrender to the uncertainty life may bring, accepting those things beyond your control. But that means you're in a place of trust. Because when you trust that there is a divine plan and there is a divine order and there is a divine spirit, and that at the end of the day, all is well, when you are aligned with that energy, then it's a lot easier to surrender and let go and to then find that inner peace. So life may test you to just be rather than do, as I just said, by creating stretches of inactivity, delays, or prolonged pause. So there is power in the pause, as they say. And instead of getting anxious and wondering how to power through that, maybe take a step back and pause and ask, why this period of inactivity or, delay or pause has come up, and just sit with it. It will reveal itself why it's there. The key here is to let go and let God, trusting in the divine timing and order of all things, as I said, while remaining in an internally peaceful, centered place despite the external factors around you. So it's about finding your center and holding your center. Group 6 is Free Spirit. The Free Spirit group is focused on learning lessons around the magic of joy and play. If these lessons resonate with you, you may struggle to find the balance between work and play in your life. You may experience feelings of burnout from the daily grind and working hard to stay on top of all your earthly roles and responsibilities. And you may suffer from feelings of overwhelm, discord, and imbalance. And you may also feel disconnected from your inner child, that part of you that is innately relaxed, creative, magical, and playful in all things. All right. So it's really important here that you remember spirits come through all the time, not regretting that, they wish they would have stayed at the office longer or worked harder. It's usually not enjoying their golden years, not taking time out of their busy, hectic lives to go play and rest and recharge. Because again, life is meant to be enjoyed, not endured. And so joy is one of the highest vibrations on the scale of consciousness. And you can embody that lighthearted feeling when you find ways to play. And play is going to look different for all of us. But it's healthy outlets that energize you, that light you up, and that bring you joy. Group 7 is Grateful Heart. The Grateful Heart group is focused on learning lessons related to gratitude, hence the name. So if this is one of your top lessons in this life, you've been placed in situations and relationships that have asked you to find a deeper appreciation for what is. Gratitude is not about having it all. No one has it all. But recognizing the value in and the appreciation for what you already have. So when you are grateful for what is, the universe always brings you more to be grateful for. It builds on that momentum, like it is enough. And then that means there is an abundance consciousness, which means more gratitude comes as a result of feeling authentically grateful. Many of us take our lives for granted, and I know I've been guilty of this, and sometimes it takes a little wake-up call to get us to recognize and appreciate what we have, what's right in front of us, because there was a threat. It was, almost threatened or taken. But it doesn't have to come to that. We can be conscious of this and embody this without wake-up calls, you guys. The key here is really being present and being aware of what we already have within us, around us, who we have, who we're in relationship with, rather than stuck in our heads of the past, longing for what was with regrets or shame or blame, or lost in our heads, future tripping about what could be, but what isn't. So that brings in a lack of gratitude when you are in that place anywhere but present. So this lesson asks you to cultivate more presence in your life. And as you're more present, you will ignite a more grateful heart, taking less for granted and appreciating all the things, big and small, that we may not have noticed in the past. Group 8 is All One. The All One group is focused on learning lessons related to sharing, cooperation, and empathy. So if these are lessons for you, you may be tested in the ways that you relate to and interact with other people. Perhaps you've struggled with being a team player or failing to understand and connect with others' visions or intentions behind collaborating on a creation. Or maybe you felt selfish and territorial around something important to you. Well, these lessons require you to step outside of yourself, connect with your heart, and engage with others on a deeper level, and to demonstrate love and understanding through your words and actions. So the key to mastering this lesson is remembering the truth that we are all one, connected by the divine spark that connects us to Source that is internal and eternal within us. So we are here in Earth School to learn and teach each other very important lessons that move us in the direction of growth and evolution. And we do this by working together with an open heart and mind and for the highest good of all. Group 9 is Middle Way. The Middle Way group is focused on learning lessons related to harmony, balance, self-control, and boundaries. These are the lessons bound to the agreements that we explicitly or implicitly make with ourselves, with others, and with nature. Tests around these lessons may show up in your life as imbalanced relationships where people take advantage of you or treat you dishonorably or fail to recognize your needs. Responding to people and situations in a way that recognizes and honors your right to be seen and heard will help you to learn these lessons throughout your lifetime. And the key to mastering these lessons is to make choices from the frequency of love, because this creates a harmonious energetic state that the universe responds to by reflecting back honor and regard, ease, grace, and flow in all things. It is said that everyone and everything in this third dimensional world mirrors back to us our beliefs. So it's really about being in a healthy, balanced place within, being in harmony with yourself, and therefore it will be reflected back to you with harmony and balance and those around you honoring you and your boundaries. So as with anything, it starts from the inside out. So it's really making an agreement with yourself to honor yourself, to choose to hold your center and find a sense of balance and harmony in all things and in all ways in which you show up to your life. Group 10 is Keep Going. The Keep Going group is focused on learning lessons related to grief and perseverance. These lessons are some of the most challenging, my friends, and yet hold the potential for the most profound growth in our lifetimes. So oftentimes when I work with spirit, it comes up that the most ambitious souls take on this group because usually there's profound loss, whether it's literal or metaphorical. So grief asks us to recognize that progress is not linear and that our experiences are more about the journey and less about the destination. So the lesson of grief challenges us to move forward with an acceptance that there is no set timeline or no right or wrong way to grieve. And our challenge is to embrace our deepest, darkest feelings and moments, remembering the only way out is through. If these lessons resonate with you, you may have faced profound loss in this life, and it's either through the physical death of loved ones or, again, the metaphorical deaths, endings, and detours you may have faced tied to whether it's your career, relationships, or any other situation. So learning these lessons will ask you to continue taking next steps, even if it is not easy or you are not seeing a clear path in front of you. This lesson challenges you to see your life as a both messy and imperfect design, and one that is not happening to you, but for you. So when viewed this way, it's a whole lot easier for you to embrace your grief as a gift, showing up to offer you the opportunity to learn your lessons and to then transform them and be reborn, trusting there's a divine design behind it. And this is what allows for your soul's growth, evolution, and expansion into greater awareness, which at the end of the day is the ultimate goal for our soul. You can always learn more about your specific life lessons by referring back to your assessment results or taking the quiz again. Then, if you want to dive into the work of tackling your lessons, check out my Change It, Run It, Tap It 30-day program. I've developed a 3-step practice that I recommend to my clients to help them reframe false stories about their lives and then be able to embrace and complete important lessons. This practice is going to raise your vibration and elevate your energy, and it works. It's worked for me, it's worked for my husband, it's worked for so many of my clients. So I'm really excited to be able to offer you a very simple tool that you can use for 5 or 10 minutes a day, every day, to elevate your energy, raise your vibration, and transcend your life assignments and lessons.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of Small, Medium, at Large. For more information about my offerings and events, and for additional resources on your spiritual journey, including my self-guided courses, books, and blog videos, please visit my website, RebeccaRosen.com. You can also follow me on social media by searching @Medium Rebecca Rosen on Facebook and Instagram. As always, wishing you brightest blessings and all love.